And obviously, one of your all-time favorites and one of mine, Bernie Williams, everybody, folks. Bernie, a busy day today. Jorge at the stadium, so you got to go back tomorrow for Andy. So a kind of blast from the past weekend for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. It was great to be there. I know I had mine out of the way, and I don't have to listen to you all the time now saying, when it's going to be your day, when it's going to be your day.
Yes, they finally did. And you know what?
They finally did it.
They're going to run out of numbers is the way it's going right now. I mean, today, Jorge, and it's nice. You know, all you guys, you got a little ritual down now, right? You, Matsui, Mariano, all the guys, the core four, which I don't like because Bernie's not in the core four, so I don't like the core four. I never did. He never should have been excluded, so let's call it the Fab Five, okay? We move on and just call it that, okay? So I never was a big core four guy, so because Bernie was excluded from that. But you guys have, really put this together now where it's like a group that the fans wait for on all these days. Now, unfortunately, the bad part is it means you're getting old. But other than that, you look forward to these days?
Yeah, I actually do. You never realize when you're playing, when you're, young and 22, 23, 24 years old, you're playing with the Yankees and you're part of this great run that the Yankees are making, making history, through the 90s. And as you are in it, you don't realize how much of an impact does it have, with the fans and with the city and everything. And it's now as I'm getting older, getting to enjoy, I guess, whatever we all did, being in a situation that we get acknowledged, and it's just a great, it's just a great thing to be part of.
And the reason you're so fondly remembered is because you guys won. And you won a lot.
That is correct.
Won repeatedly. And as we've watched and we see now how hard that is to do year after year, when you look back now, what did that team have that made it so successful? Those great Yankee teams that through the years, especially late 90s, early 2000.
I think we had a great combination of, the core players that had been there since the mid-90s, 94, 95. We started getting the young guys, like myself and Jorge and Andy and Mariano and Derek, and then the organization surrounded us with a great group of veteran players that were buying into Joe Torre's philosophy of just having a selfless team, everything for the team, and it was just a right combination of factors at the right time that enabled us to do that.
You were so important in so many ways, not just for what you did, and Bernie, of course, being as great a postseason player as he was, and all the big home runs and big hits that he got, but you were the first guy who got to come out of the organization and stay in the organization and develop. And it's amazing how many of the players have said that gave them hope. Because the Yankees used to trade off everybody in the 70s, in the 80s. They'd get rid of every good young player they had so they could try and win that year. And they kept you, and we know George was away for 2 years, but they kept you, let you develop, and it didn't happen overnight, right? It took a couple of years, but it showed everybody in that organization that, hey, you can come up and play for the Yankees now. So you really were the guy who was the trailblazer.
Well, yeah, I would like to take all the credit, but unfortunately I cannot.
Yes.
I am a product of a system that was basically creating all these great players in the minor leagues. And before me, I don't know if anybody remembers, Kevin Moss,
yep,
and Andy Stankiewicz, and even Jim Liritz. He was my teammate in the minor leagues as well. I was the only one that was fortunate to sort of stick and stay because back in those days, obviously the expectations weren't as high as they are now, these days. And I'm, obviously very proud of creating part of that expectation. But if I was a player now, the player that I was back then, I probably would have been traded within a year or so because we cannot afford to play through our mistakes and develop as players. It's it's very high stakes right now playing for the Yankees.
We look back, the '95 playoffs were heartbreaking, but so exciting to finally be in the playoffs, getting Mattingly a chance to play in the playoffs. And you're carrying two kids who really are just there watching, and it's Posada and it's Jeter.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about? You're an integral part of the team. No one knows what Mariano is. No one knows what Jeter is. Mariano's on that team. If we had known what he is, they wouldn't have brought Jack McDowell in the game. So we know that.
Yeah.
They have a tough series. A brutal loss means the start for Joe Torre and goodbye to Buck Showalter. But you're carrying Posada, you're carrying Jeter, you have a young Mariano. Did you notice anything about those three guys on that team?
Not at the time. I think at the time they were trying to figure out what Mariano's role was going to be. Because remember, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people knew that, but he was a starter.
He was a starting pitcher, yeah.
He was a starter. He was throwing 95, 96, 97 miles an hour for the first 3 innings. And then after that, he just got lit up. So they were trying to find the right role for him. And obviously, after he developed the closer, he developed the cutter, he became the closer. And Derek and Jorge, they have been so spoiled. You know, the first time they came in.
They're observing during the 95 playoffs, and then they're kids in 96.
Took a cup of coffee in 95, and then after that, it was every year in the postseason after that. I mean, they, for better or for worse, they didn't know any better. So it was part of their philosophy, part of their way of thinking. This is the way that we roll. We're just going to be in the playoffs every year. And I think that they really set the tone with the players that were coming in from other organizations saying, this is just the way we do things here. You know, we expect to be in the playoffs. We're not planning on doing things in September, in October. We are going to be, playing baseball, at this time. So, make sure that you don't plan anything because this is the way that we do things here in New York.
Watching the Posada ceremony today, the hit they capped his little video with was, and I'm fortunate enough, and a lot of the fans are, to be in the stadium for all those playoff games. And no game was a better game start to finish than Game 7, 2003. And that 8th inning is one of the great innings in Yankee lore, and it was culminated by Jorge's, as Pedro said, he hit it off the end of the bat, he told me when I had him in recently, okay? But it's 5-2. It's the 8th inning. All that's happened in the game is Giambi hit a couple of homers. Pedro's about 130 pitches into the game. 8th inning, they leave him in. Jeter hits a line drive that Trot Nixon goes the wrong way on. Now he's on second base and you're up. I always thought your at-bat was the key to the inning because Pedro gets you, all of a sudden he can work through the inning. Yeah. Your at-bat there, line drive, base hit to center field on a line, which got the thing going. The first run scored. What do you remember about that 8th inning, that at-bat? Jeter gets on, you're down 5-2. Take me through that at-bat right there.
Well, I think my mentality was, it was such a long time ago, but my mentality, I think, was just to try to get on base, trying to have a productive at-bat. I think that was probably my mantra through all those years. I wasn't really thinking about hitting the ball out of the park or doing something spectacular.
Just hit it where it's pitched.
Just try to, have the confidence to know that people behind me were going to have my back as I was going to be, effective for the people that were in front of me. And I think it was a collective mindset that the team had at that point. And I'm pretty sure that I was thinking, just put the ball in play, just, have a productive at-bat, and if you strike out, make sure you work the count and have him throw even more pitches, and just have the best at-bat that you can have. And,
Bernie hits a line drive to center field for a base hit. Now it's 5-3. Matsui, who was always good in the clutch like you, rings a double down the first baseline. Now it's second and third.
That's right.
And then today, Jorge bloops it in, and there's you turning around saying to Matsui, come on home. Yeah. Come on home behind you to tie the game at 5.
Yeah, it was very exciting, especially doing it in the fashion that we did it against the pitcher that, obviously a lot of heads rolled that day.
Oh, yeah.
It cost the manager's job, everybody's job. But obviously, you're going to lose with your best guy, and I guess at that point, Pedro was. And the fact that we were able to get him at that point is certainly a highlight of our careers.
You think of so many things with Bernie. Gold gloves, batting crown, everything else. Plus, only 2 guys have two walk-off home runs in the postseason. One, unfortunately, is Big Papi. The other one is Bernie. Randy Myers, Rod Beck. Give me Randy Myers first. a long home run.
Yes, battling out. I think we were. I mean, obviously, none of that would have happened if Derek's highly controversial home run that tied the game up.
Jeffrey Mayer. Yes.
Yes, and as I was thinking, you know, I think both at bats were kind of similar. I was kind of going into the game, into my at bat, thinking, you know, I'm just going to try to work the count, get a good pitch that I can handle. Randy Myers, I felt a little bit more comfortable from the right side.
A little more powerful too.
Yeah. I mean, I was just, the ball was kind of like outside in the outer part of the plate, and I was just so pumped up that I ended up pulling it. And
you knew it was gone, right?
Yeah, I knew it was gone.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it was going to be foul or fair. But it was. I mean, I remember hitting the ball, and everything else that I've noticed about the at bat, I have seen on the highlights, because I don't remember running the bases. I don't remember touching the bases. I don't remember anything about that. Just hitting the ball.
You know, that's a feeling that not a lot of guys experience. A postseason game where you end it with a home run and you're running the bases. You probably don't even remember what's going on as you round the bases, right? You did it twice. I mean, guys don't ever get to do that. That's only happened a handful of times. That's a big moment.
It happens so fast, you know, and you get the magic of technology, so you can watch it over and over again if you get an opportunity. But once you're in the moment, as a player, you don't get an opportunity to do that, because you're always thinking about the next moment and the next at bat and the next game and the next year. So I was one player that never really looked back at what I have done. I was always looking forward to see what I could do in the future. So I never really gave an opportunity to see, you know, those things.
You had the ceremony today and you have one tomorrow. So two guys today. Today Posada, tomorrow Pettit. Give me a thought on Posada. What comes into your head when I mention Posada as a teammate?
He was as intense as I've seen anybody play the game. Obviously he had the responsibility of handling the pitching staff. That at that point he was probably one of the best in the league. Plus he had the responsibility to hit, to be part of a really powerful offensive lineup that we had. He never disappointed. He was always, it was a different that, he was very good friends, obviously still is, good friends with Derek.
Yep.
But you couldn't have two more different personalities. And Derek was always, kind of like leading by example, just doing things. And if he had something to tell you, he would pull you aside and he, talk to you about, whatever he wanted to say. Jorge was not. He wore his heart on his sleeve all the time. Like he was on. You talk about Paul O'Neill being intense, breaking all kinds of stuff in the dugout. Jorge was even worse. So I think he was definitely one of the guys that we looked up to have that intensity, game in and game out, especially in the postseason when everything is happening and you're tired from a long season, dog days of August, going into the postseason. If you're lucky enough, then you have to put everything that you have. You have nothing else left, and you have to put it on the line and make sure that you play to the best of your ability. And Jorge was certainly a great part of that process.
Now, everyday guys like you might not spend as much time with the pitchers as you would with other guys. But how about Andy Pettit? Now, Andy Pettit's tomorrow. We watched Andy all those years. Another intense guy on the mound. Yeah. Off the field, if you know him, very quiet and laid back, but very intense when he was on the mound.
He was almost like knowing two different people. Yeah. The Andy Pettit was off the field. Soft-spoken family man, always going to church. I think I think his wife, his father-in-law was a pastor of a church in Texas. But on the field, he was as intense as I could remember any pitcher. And those days, I probably wouldn't have anybody taking the ball when the game was on the line and we needed a win. Other than Andy, I remember having that stare when you could only see his eyes between his hat and his glove, and he would like stare at the hitter. I remember that. I remember just being very hard on himself, when he was taken out of the games and things like that. I remember him talking to himself a lot in the clubhouse, just being very intense and always caring a lot about the team and obviously his performance, and an awesome part of the team as well.
One time during one of those years, it was in the glory days, because Paul O'Neill was still there. they had this feature on, and I'm watching you guys up on a rooftop, and Paul O'Neill's on the drums, and you're on the guitar, and I'm saying, look at these guys. They actually think they're musicians. Well,
Yes.
it turned out
I thought I was.
It turned out you were a musician. And the first time I knew that, folks, is I go to the Joe Torre dinner, and Bruce Springsteen's there. So we're like, we're in a small room, and we get to hear Bruce Springsteen perform. And there's not more than, say, a couple of hundred people in the room for Joe's charity. And Bernie comes out to play with Bruce Springsteen. Now, that's kind of hard. Here's Bruce Springsteen, and here's Bernie with a guitar, so I'm sitting there saying, boy, that's a lot of pressure. Well, about halfway through the first song, Bruce stops and goes, hey, he's pretty good. So you turn out to have a career now with the guitar.
Yeah, well, funny story about that is like 10 years before that same moment, Paul O'Neill used to be, pretty good friends with all the rockers, and he used to bring them into the clubhouse, the old stadium, and one day he brought Bruce Springsteen into the clubhouse, and I was just like, beyond myself. Say, what am I going to do here? I'm not going to let him sign a bat or a ball. And I always carried a guitar in my locker room. It was a black Telecaster. I still have it. And I said, well, maybe I'll just let him sign this guitar instead. So I go in and I offer him the guitar. I say, Mr. Springsteen, could you please sign this for me? This is going to be amazing. So he signs to Bernie, if you ever get tired of baseball, Bruce Springsteen.
How good is that?
10 years later, I am sharing the stage with him at the Joe Torre Safe and Home Foundation dinner. It's
and now,
wild life. It's a wild life.
And Bernie now has won Grammys. You've had a very...
I've been Grammy nominated. I haven't won any yet.
Okay, I gave him a Grammy. All right, so he was nominated. Well, he will get one, okay?
The legend still grows.
Hey, you know what? Sounds better. Let him say you won it. Who knows? They're not going to check.
Being nominated is great.
But you're having a real good time now with all your music.
Yes. I actually have incorporated a lot of the things that I learned playing baseball professionally in New York. Like the work ethic. Performing under pressure, not dwelling on your mistakes, thinking about the next note, about the next at bat. All of that I've been able to incorporate into my music training. And my plan is just to put a band together and go all over the world and play. Glad that in this line of work you get to retire a little younger, so you still have an opportunity to do, pursue your passions. And I'm very glad and very proud and very blessed to have an opportunity to do that.
And you also, are you still going to school, or is school done?
I am going into my last year.
Bernie's a full-time student.
Yes.
Studying music.
I cannot wait to be done. Yeah, I am going to be a senior next year at Manhattan School of Music, pursuing a bachelor's degree on jazz performance. So after all this time playing, I decided to be a rock star, though.
That's a good deal.
That's great.
All right. So go ahead, just introduce yourself, and now you can ask a question. Go ahead.
Hey, Bernie.
Hi.
My name's Ed. I've been a fan since I'm 7 years old, a Yankee fan.
Oh, thank you.
I have many, many favorite Yankee moments. What's yours?
Wow. Too many, man. This is a very hard question.
You have one moment?
Favorite
Is there one
Bernie,
that sticks out? Is there one baseball moment that sticks out?
I mean, there are just so many. There's one actually that sticks out when we played the first game in Yankee Stadium after all the 9/11 things, and we had our president in the mound waiting to throw out the first pitch
Against Arizona.
Yep. And everybody was so tense, and the tension was so all in the air, and I was just like, throw the pitch, hurry up, throw that pitch. He went out and threw a strike,
He did.
and I was like, I mean, it was just amazing.
And he was in body armor. Like, he had complete body suit. Like, they had him completely in a bodysuit. It was pretty good pitch. You know that?
That was amazing.
It really was well done. All right, Trying to just raise your hand so we can see you, and we'll get to another question. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, Bernie.
Yes,
Bernie,
sir.
I wonder if you could comment just for a moment on the clubhouse. Joe Torre, Hall of Fame manager, and yourself and the whole climate. I mean, what was his strength in that locker room, and with everything that you can
Joe
comment
Torre.
on that brought out such years and years of championships? I mean, yourself a great player, a great manager. I mean, just help me with that climate. I mean, what was it like?
I think the thing about Joe Torre that I can tell is his basically simplicity in his whole approach. He had only two rules. You play as hard as you can, and you be on time. If you follow those two rules, I'll go through the ringer for you, and he did. He did. And everything else was, I think playing in New York takes a special individual, but takes even a more special manager to be able to deal with all the media. And he was the right man for the job because he was very accommodating to the media. And in that, he sort of shielded us from all the distractions and all that stuff. So even though New York is a city that has a lot of distractions, in the clubhouse, it was like an island. We were completely isolated from everything because we had this mentality of whatever happens in the clubhouse stays there. We're not going to get anything, let out. We're not going to cause any controversy. We're going to, whatever happens, we're just going to police it out between ourselves. And, I think that attitude that we had, as a family, just to kind of resolve things, without having any more distractions, I think it played a big role and Joe Torre was a big part of that.
And Joe Torre said his favorite player was Bernie, so he hasn't hid that.
Yeah, I was his favorite player.
He admits that. His all-time favorite player was Bernie. He has said that many times, matter of fact, more than once. You got to wait for Mark. Just raise your hand in the purple shirt. Mark will get to you, and we'll get to as many as we can. As many questions as we can. Here he comes. Okay. Go ahead.
Hey, Bernie, how's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. Sorry. You talked about using a telly before, or letting Bruce sign the telly. What is your favorite guitar?
I don't know. It depends. I mean, the electric guitar that I'm playing right now is a Reverend. It's a company out of Toledo, Ohio, and they had two humbuckers. So I'm out of the telly world for now. But I play Taylor's, and I also play a McPherson acoustic guitar. So, I mean, depending on the gig, that's the guitar that I use.
What's a telly? Explain it. What's that? I don't know that. What's that?
Fender Telecaster.
Oh, a Telecaster.
Which is more suited for like country music,
Gotcha.
all that,
Gotcha. It's got
stuff.
that metal thing on it. Is that what it has? Like that thing that you reverberate?
Yeah, that's the whammy bar though. Tellys don't have that.
Okay. I know nothing about guitars. Nothing.
I can tell. I can tell.
All right. Hey, Bertie, my name's Rocky. I just want to know, out of all the championships you won with the Yankees, which one was your favorite or most memorable one as a ball player?
They were all very special, but I think for me personally, 98 was the best because I had an individual season that is arguably my best in my career. And we did what we were supposed to do as a team. We broke the record of regular season wins, and then we went out and in the postseason and won the World Series as well. So to me, that year epitomizes everything that we had in our career as a team, the team that was in that moment in history for the Yankees.
I can tell you the one they were most relieved about, and that was the Mets series, because the Yankees were impossible to deal with for 2 weeks. You guys were in the worst moods because, God forbid, they had lost because George was impossible. And when that ball landed in your glove, then that series on a Piazza ball, which he still says he thought it was going out of the ballpark.
I thought it was gone too.
And he did. And that was a sense of relief, was it not, that you finally beat the Mets?
Yes, absolutely. I think
the Yankees were miserable those 2 weeks. Miserable to deal with.
For Mr. Steinbrenner, we had was it 3 teams that we could not lose to? Tampa Bay,
Red Sox,
the Red Sox, and the Mets.
That's it. Yep.
And this counted for spring training as well.
Yes.
If we were playing video games, we couldn't even lose.
And remember,
to
he
them.
flooded the clubhouse. Remember,
That's right.
That whole thing was a circus. That was a strange series. The Subway Series was not as exciting as it was supposed to. It just didn't click the way I thought it would click. It wasn't as big as I thought it would be. Go ahead.
Hi, Bernie. I just want to get your thoughts on playing in a rivalry-driven game with the Red Sox in your time, and now since free agency has kind of eliminated mostly rivalries now. How was different playing then?
I mean, I'm part of a couple of generations that played against the Red Sox. I remember when I first came in '91, a totally different team. And the rivalry wasn't really as much, 91, 92, 93. But before that, it was,
70s it was big.
70s was heat. I mean, remember, they were fighting all the time, right?
Yes. Yeah, especially Munson and Fisk,
Yeah. But that sort of changed when Pedro came and Manny Ramirez came to the team and Varitek came to the team. And then we had, obviously, Zimmer and Alex Rodriguez and Jorge Posada, and then that started a second generation rivalry, and those games were very intense. It didn't matter if it was the regular season, if we were games behind or games ahead. We treated every one of those games like it was the seventh game of the World Series, and it was personal for us.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, Bernie. You're a really stand-up guy, and I was wondering, you were born in Puerto Rico.
That's right.
Right?
Boricua.
Boricua. And I'd just like to know, growing up, who was your idol?
My idol was my father. He was the one that taught me how to play guitar. He was the one that taught me how to play baseball. At the time, I got to tell you the story, I started playing when I was 8 years old. At the time that a Puerto Rican kid is playing at 8 years old, starting to play, he's way behind because all the kids started playing at 4 and 5 with their little diapers playing, T-ball and running the wrong way. And at 8 years old, I was really way behind, and my dad took the time to take me to the park after school every day and teach me how to play the game, playing catch with me, hitting ground balls and fly balls and teaching me how to hit. So, as far as that, my hero has always been my father. But players that I used to watch, I used to watch the 70s Yankees, the Bronx Zoo with Thurman and Bucky Dent and Willie Randolph and Reggie Jackson. And I had the opportunity to spend time with some of those players in the minor leagues. Roy White was really instrumental in teaching me how to switch hit. Bucky Dent was my manager in AAA. Willie Randolph was kind of like my mentor in the big leagues, and it's, and the list go on and on and on. So, I grew up watching those players, and they were my heroes.
But Clemente had an impact on all you guys too, right?
Obviously,
Clemente?
that was kind of like, obviously, it goes without saying.
And just like Bernie did on Beltran. Beltran says that you're his idol, so he was very influenced by you. And Clemente was one I know that you love watching play too.
Absolutely,
right?
but obviously, I never saw him play.
Right.
But I met him through his family, and the impact that he had as a player and as a humanitarian and everything that surrounded the persona of Roberto Clemente basically was an inspiration for every young kid that was growing up and wanted to be a baseball player.
The first time Bernie and I ever talked was I was talking with the dog. We were having a talk about old players, and I was talking about Clemente. And you called me up to talk about Clemente with me. That was the first time I ever talked to you. Because you were like, hey, I love Clemente, blah, blah, blah. You start talking about Clemente. That's the first time we ever spoke.
That is right. Yep. And also when they, I called like a furious fan to the station the year that they were choosing the 100 best players in the history of the game. And I called as a fan. I said, "How come you can't include Roberto Clemente in that list?" I was all rattled up about it.
Roberto Clemente was an unusual player, but anyone old enough to have seen him, and I did, he was an amazing, amazing player. He was a hitter more than a slugger, but the most brilliant right fielder you'd ever see. He played right field like a shortstop, and he threw the ball sidearm. He was an amazing, amazing all-around player. Great average hitter, hit 330, 340. Wonderful hitter, line drive hitter, right-handed, and a brilliant outfielder too. An amazing player.
Left us too soon.
Yes, absolutely. Doing good, as a matter of fact, taking goods to earthquake victims as plane went down. All right, another one. Go ahead, Charney.
Hi, Bernie.
Go ahead.
My name is
all the way out there, sir.
Hey, Bernie. My name's Corey. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
My question is the two games that Kim came in during the Arizona series where the Yankees hit home runs late in the game. I was watching those, and they were like so thrilling games. Your memories of those two games where the Yankees came back, like in the ninth inning or extra inning, stayed home runs?
It was surreal. To have it happen the first time was awesome. And we knew that we were playing for something bigger than ourselves. I think the whole country was watching the games, and at times we were questioning our role in this whole scenario after 9/11. And the first time it happened, it was like, great, man. The city is just, beside themselves, and everybody's doing great. When it happened the second time, it was like, well, this is destiny. We're just bound to win this thing. And we were in such great spirits going into Arizona. Obviously, things didn't go our way, but win or lose, to be part of that process of healing, the healing process of the nation by doing what we did, and having a higher purpose while we were doing it. Probably one of the things that I treasure most in my career as a Yankee.
Hi, my name is David, and I loved your baseball career, and I loved your music. We've heard The Journey Within, and we have heard moving forward. Are we ever going to hear a third album from you?
Yeah, of course. I'm like a rookie starting in this music industry now. But I am giving myself time to finish school to figure, what direction I am going to take my music.
How long does it take to do an album?
It depends. If you're really good, about a week. But
how long did it take you to do an album?
Probably about a month first time. But I was still playing. I was still a baseball player, current player. I think.
Do you write music at all? Do you write anything or no? Do you write music?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
Most of the music in those 2 albums is original music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Composed and arranged. Yeah. I think being a musician it's a blessing. It's a very special thing, and being an artist and having a voice is the most important thing. How do you cultivate this voice? You can. Like being a poet, you can be a poet playing baseball. You can be an artist, being a doctor, being an engineer, being a musician, obviously as well. And it's just about developing your own identity and your own voice, and make sure that it's expressed as eloquently as you can. And that's why I'm going to school to learn how to do that.
What guitar player do you like to like? If I say who's a great guitar player, who do you think of?
Well, to answer that question, you have to be more specific.
Well, how about rock? How about rock? I wouldn't know anything about jazz. So
I would say probably Van Halen and Clapton. Blues, you got B.B. King, Albert King.
B.B. King, nice man. I actually sat next to him on a plane one time to California. Very nice man. Really wonderfully nice man. Really was. I had a great talk with him.
Yeah, and then you have jazz. You got obviously Les Paul.
I've heard of Les Paul.
Joe Pass.
Right.
There's so many, and
is there anybody you influenced you? Was there any?
All of them.
They all did. Okay.
All of them.
Okay.
I think being able to. Guitar is one instrument that depending on the culture that you grow up, and the country that you grow up in, guitar is one universal instrument that everybody takes it and do their own thing. You talk about Celtic music, you talk about flamenco guitar, you talk about rock music and jazz. The guitar is always there, but it's in different roles.
Do you play any other instrument but guitar?
Well, the school is requiring me to play piano, so I have 2 years of piano.
Do you like that?
I love piano. I just don't. I'm not as good yet.
You're not a good player?
I am. I'm a decent player. I'm not as good yet. I spent playing guitar for like 30 years in my life.
Right.
And piano is like the last 2 years.
Could you sit down and play a song on a piano?
I could probably hack one tune.
All right, Mark, where are you? Put your hand up. Let me see. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Bernie Moore, a comment. My mother came from Vega Alta, Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow. That's my hometown. Vega Alta, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, on behalf of her, she passed away a couple of years ago.
I am so sorry to hear that, sir.
Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. An honor
representing. What's the name of the town?
Vega Alta, the High Plains.
The High Plains?
High Plains.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Cherny. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Bernie, big fan, man.
Thank you.
In 2000, when you caught the ball and you went down with one knee, what were you thinking? What was the plan?
I was thanking God that I didn't drop it first. And then after that, I can remember certain things about the whole. I remember carrying Joe Torre, off the field, and he was crying like a baby, blowing kisses to his wife. I remember Paul O'Neill just jumping into the pile. There's just like little things that I can remember from that, from those moments. Playing in New York and winning the series at Shea Stadium. It was like a local rivalry, but the whole baseball world stopped to see those two local teams play. We didn't have to travel anywhere. It was just an awesome series to play.
And that ball died off the bat, right? It really did.
That
because
ball
he thought it was crushed.
And
he said he
Mariano.
Mariano thought it was a homer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Piazza thought it was a homer.
Yeah.
And it just stopped out there in left center field.
Yes, I started running. I saw the ball hit, and I saw Piazza's swing. And, we're taught to run to the place that you think the ball is going to go, you know, like in a Willie Mays fashion. You start turning your back and you run and run and run because you know the ball is crushed. Then halfway through it, I decided to maybe I should take a peek, see where am I located at. And obviously, all of a sudden, I see the ball sort of dying. And it was like, I may have a chance. I mean, I'm from thinking that I'm going to have to go do a Spider-Man thing, climbing out the wall. I said, maybe I'll have a chance to catch this ball. And it keeps dying and dying. And then I was able to, round it and go behind it. Yep. And then as it's going down, I'm saying, please don't drop it. Don't drop it. Thank you so much. Let's smoke a cigar.
That's it. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi, Bernie.
Hi.
What do you think of the bleacher creatures?
They're the best.
Section 39, baby.
That's
we
right.
love you.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate that. They started that chant when I was playing, and I was the first name they mentioned when that chant started. And they wouldn't stop until I acknowledged them, and then the whole thing just started going, and that's how it started. Player by player, player by player, except for the pitcher, except for David Wells. He always waved. Thank you. Thank you.
I had an indirect encounter.
You have a space for me there? Well, I know space is limited there, though.
Hi, how are you? I had an indirect encounter with George Steinbrenner back in 2001 during the playoff when you came from behind, I forget which home run. He was on Park Avenue. I was walking behind him because I was a messenger, and people were coming up to him and saying, hi, how are you? He said, hi, fellow. A fellow Yaley. I was wondering if he had any interesting stories, because that was kind of a strange experience. He was walking with just a guard, and that was it.
I think he was a unique individual. I think he knew exactly what he was doing.
Who, George?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
I think he had that intimidation factor by design. I think he liked people to fear him.
Yes.
Within the organization.
Had temper.
Yeah, but he could also be the kindest, most generous guy that you could ever meet as well.
In the same minute.
Yeah. From one second to the other. I have one story about him that sticks to mind. Well, actually two, but the one that I'm telling is in '89. I was very close to make the Yankee team out of spring training, right from Class A, and they decided to send me down to AA because they wanted me to have more playing time as opposed to being a fourth or fifth outfielder. Right. And I remember Mr. Steinbrenner coming out to me at Shea Stadium and saying, son, you're a good player. We don't have room for you right now, but make sure you go down there and play hard, stay healthy. We're going to get you back here in no time, and you're going to do great. Is that clear? And I say, yes, sir.
It wasn't a question.
It was not a question. He obviously expected the best from his players, but he gave them the best as well. So you get what you pay for. So he really expected excellence out of all of us.
Yeah, absolutely, without question. All right, another one. We'll take 3 or 4 more. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Bernie, I want to say thank you for everything. Lo que tú diste para los Yankees. Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias, Bernie. Gracias.
He was the best of times, man. The best of times.
Anybody else? Go to the guy
Thank
in
you.
the pink shirt, the purple shirt right there, and we'll get a couple more in before we say goodbye.
Hi, Bernie.
Go ahead.
Hello.
You're my favorite player. I'm just wondering, when you retired, well, you really didn't retire. They retired you.
Never did, yeah.
That's right.
He's finally now retired.
He's
yes.
finally now retired.
Yeah.
Do you feel kind of slated that you didn't get to go on your own terms?
Well, you know what? I think that it couldn't happen a better way now that I think about it, because I got to retire when I was still doing, pretty well. I could still play. I think it would have been a lot sadder when they had to scrape the uniform off of me, hitting 150 and just striking out every time and really, facing the fact that I couldn't play anymore. I think that would have been probably a little bit more sad. I knew that I had this music thing in my head that was sort of, that seed was, growing. And I knew that I wanted to, prove myself, and have an opportunity to do that as well. And To tell you the truth, now I have a better relationship with the Yankees than I ever had when I was a player, because I'm a local guy, stay in the tri-state area. I get invited to all the events, all the corporate things, and I'm obviously making a career out of being Bernie Williams in New York. So there's no animosity towards that, and they treated me like part of the family. I've always been a Yankee and always going to remain a Yankee. To have the opportunity to play with this team through my whole career is something that it doesn't happen too often. So I'm very proud to have that opportunity to have it happen here in New York.
You had something to go to. You had another career waiting, which was good. I mean, you had something you wanted to do. You have a passion for it, which is really good if you have that as a player.
Yeah.
What's the thing you miss most when you stopped playing? What did you miss most about it? What did you miss most?
The competition.
So just the everyday competition to prove that you were that good and everything?
The everyday, not the sense of it was every day, but the sense of what happened in those 3.5, 4 hours between the lines. That sense, that competition, that's what I miss.
Okay. What did you miss least? Other than the media. What did you miss least?
Okay.
Travel? Did you get tired traveling?
Yeah, travel was, it was bad towards the end of the season.
Right.
I think the one thing that I hated the most was the fact that I couldn't control my circumstances within the game. Like, there is a point in your as a player that you can do everything absolutely right, be in the best shape of your life, have complete great, motor, hand-eye coordination, and do everything right, and still not knowing what's going to happen, and still strike out, and still, have a poor outing. And knowing that I had no control about that, it drove me crazy, and that drives people crazy. That's why you take 500 swings, before a game, and that's why you work so hard, even as a major leaguer, because you still want to control something that you have absolutely no control over.
When did you realize that you had it not made, because you always got to compete, but when did you realize that you were able to do this on a high level and on a very consistent level?
Never.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Never, man. I always had this thing in the back of my head. You got to remember, for the first 3 or 4 years of my career, I was either going to be sent down or traded somewhere.
Right.
So that never left me. Even when I signed the 7-year deal, I always thought that I was going to be traded somewhere. So I think I sort of fooled myself into thinking I just got to keep remembering what got me here. And obviously, you in the back of your mind, you get a little bit of leeway. You say, well, if I strike out, maybe I can get him next time. I'm not going to be run out of town. But I would say, to be quite honest, probably after the 95 season.
Okay.
When we had, the strike, and then the 96, it was like the coming out year.
And after you were established, there was only one time, if to tell, where you came close to being traded, and that was for a really good player, Larry Walker.
That's right.
And that came, that trade came really, and he was hitting like 370 at the time or something. That trade came really close to happening.
Mainstay of the Montreal Expos, and then he went
Larry
to the
Walker. He was a really good player too.
Rockies. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's the only one that ever came really close.
Yeah, but in my head, I was just, I'd really have this thing. If I strike out, I'm going to get run out of town. If I drop a baseball, I don't know what's going to happen.
When did you stop looking to see if you were in the lineup every day? When did you stop going out and seeing if your name was on the lineup card?
Probably after the 98 season. Well, after I won the batting title.
Before that, you were playing every day for years before that.
That's the thing about baseball. You cannot take anything for granted. If at the moment
so you used to get in the stadium and go look and see if you were in the lineup.
Of course,
even when you were killing it.
Everybody has to. Once you start expecting things and taking things for granted, that's when you start, being complacent, and things start rolling down from that moment on.
What do you if there's one thing about your career that surprised you, of all the things, what's the one thing about your career when you look back on your career now and all the wonderful things you accomplished? What's the one thing that surprises you, if anything?
The one thing that surprises me the most is the fact that I hit more home runs than I had more stolen bases.
That you hit more homers than stolen bases?
Yes, because I was a track athlete.
Yeah, but you were not the greatest base runner, okay? Let's be
But I was
honest.
still fast.
Yeah, you couldn't get a lead for anything, though. You know that you had a lot of wondrous talents.
I was just
Running the
second
bases
guessing
was
myself
never
all
one
the
of them.
time. My mind got in the way.
How could someone so fast be so bad on the base?
Exactly, that's my question.
I don't know. I don't know. You know what
still
Tori used
trying
to
to
say to
answer
me?
that.
Tori used to say, "I don't know what's going on in that head." You know that? But you were faster than fast, but somehow you weren't thinking about everything when it was out there.
I think that was probably one thing that made Joe the best manager, because he just left me. He just let me be. He didn't try to figure me out. He said, "Okay, just
But
do
how
whatever you
about
want."
how much power you showed in the postseason? You were a line drive hitter, hit your 25 homers, but in the postseason you hit a ton of home runs. How come in the postseason so many home runs?
I don't know.
And clutch, he was great clutch hitter, absolutely. I would rather have him up than almost anybody I ever saw. I'm telling you right now, in a big spot. He was great in a big spot. Either way, he was great in a big spot. You really were. You were a great clutch hitter. Why?
I have no idea.
Did you feel pressure in those big spots?
Of course, everybody feels pressure. But I was thinking that I was preparing so much and so hard to get into the moment. And I think psychologically, you want to have the opportunity to be in those moments. And I should try to figure out how is it going to play out. And the more positive things that you can think of, even, as a little kid, say, "Oh, you're the Reggie Jackson." I was Reggie Jackson when I was a kid, just hitting, playing sandball. And I was 3 bases loaded, the game on the line, and you put all this positive reinforcement in your head, and you do it through your whole career, and you said, when the time comes, I want to be the one that wants to be there, as opposed to, I hope I'm not the one that's there. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think it takes you wanting to be in those situations and being able to take whatever happens, winning or losing. I mean, I think it has a lot to do with that.
Well, you were just an incredible postseason player. Where are you? Put your hand up. Let me see. Go ahead.
Hi, Bernie. Quick question. When you were out of baseball, did you ever think about coming back and playing for another team?
Did you ever think of coming back and playing for another team? Was the question.
Yes, I thought about it, but then that was probably for about 10 seconds, because you figure you get a whole body of work playing for one organization, and you're going to throw all of that away for playing like 2 or 3 seasons with another team. I felt that there were a lot of things happening in my life at the time that sort of precipitated the move of not even considering playing baseball again. And one of those was, the fact that I had a whole career with the Yankees, and in my mind, I was a Yankee for life. So I didn't want to just kind of like go out there and play for another team just to satisfy my ego and just travel and do it starting from scratch with another team. So I think that was probably one of the main reasons.
All right, we'll do 2 more. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, Bernie, I'm a diehard Yankee fan. I do a lot of baseball memorabilia right here. And,
all right.
Boomer and Carlton had a charity softball event not
Yes.
too long ago. Remember, you were out there with and I tried calling your name behind the dugout. I wanted to get an autographed ball by you so bad. But
that was really hard, man.
Yeah, you didn't want to sign that day at all. I know.
Yeah,
you were like avoiding it at all costs.
Yeah. I was focused on trying to hit the ball, trying to stay out of the stadium in one piece. That was my main thing. But it was a great event. I mean, they had a great time, and they do a great thing in New Rochelle, with that charity.
One more. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question, but I'm so excited to looking at you. And thank you for every moment you give to the Yankee fan. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is.
Really appreciate that.
It's got to be nice because, that whole group is so well remembered, but these fans love you. I mean, they really do. The ovation today was enormous. I mean, every time you go out there, you get an enormous ovation from these fans. You know why? They remember how many good things you did and how graceful you were and how successful you were. I mean, they really do.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Every moment that I have. I mean, never in my wildest dreams, and I keep saying this over and over, I would have thought that I would have an opportunity to play here, make it as a Yankee, and having the chance to play in so many great teams and winning so much. Players play for 20, 20-some years, and they never have an opportunity even to go to the playoffs. So we were very blessed to have that chance.
Plus, there's
here.
a couple of big positions in sports, but center field, New York Yankees is special. I mean, that's why, you're a great part of a great lineage of Yankee center fielders.
Yeah, good thing that I didn't realize that when I started playing. I would have probably messed it all up. But as a young player, you're like, ignorance is bliss. I was like, I'm happy to be here playing center. Okay, good, I play center. It's better than being on the bench. But as I got older and I started realizing the tradition and all the players that had played before me in this position is like, man, I have the best job in New York right now, and I never took it for granted.
Well, folks, big hand for Bernie Williams, everybody. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back with the Yankee general manager, Brian Cashman, as soon as he gets here. He's coming from the game, so thanks, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, guys.